Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Amud Beis, starting Daf Kuf Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the bottom. Let us summarize what the Gemara has said until now. The Mishnah states a din that is prohibited to eat satiating food, misamuch lemincha, that means from the time 1/2 hour before Mincha Ketana. And since Mincha Ketana is 9.5 hours into the day, already from the beginning of the 10th hour, after 9 hours, you cannot eat those foods that are satiating. That everybody agrees to, both Rabbi Yossi as well as Rabbi Yehuda. Where is their machlokes in regards to Erev Pesach? If you began beheter before that, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when it comes to Zman Shetechshach, you must stop. According to Rabbi Yossi, you do not have to stop. They also have a machlokes in regards to Erev Shabbos and Erev Yontif. Rabbi Yehuda stays with the same opinion as he does by Erev Pesach and says you cannot eat satiating foods from time of Samuch Lemincha. On that, Rabbi Yossi argues. He also argues in regards to stopping. Rabbi Yehuda said that if you did eat beforehand, comes Zman Shetechshach, you have to stop. Whereas Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to stop. The Gemara has stated in the name of Rabbi Yochanan the following ruling. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda in regards to Erev Pesach, that you would have to be mafsik. And the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi in regards to Erev Shabbos and Erev Yontif, that you would not have to be mafsik. Says the Gemara, Omar Rabbi Yehuda, Omar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel, Ein halacha like Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Yossi. He rules that the halacha is not like either one of them. Ella, pares mapa umekadesh. Rather, when it comes to chashecha on Shabbos, what you must do is just merely put a cloth over the food and make kiddush. In other words, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you have to be mafsik. It means that you have to then take away the table. They had individual tables, and you have to say birkas hamazon. According to the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, you can continue eating and say birkas, and you say kiddush at the end, and that would be then kiddush makam suda on the suda that you just had. But here Shmuel rules that no, you don't have to do like either one of them. You don't have to be mafsik like Rabbi Yehuda by taking away the table and saying birkas hamazon. And you don't have to then, and you don't do like Rabbi Yossi that says you continue eating and only at the end you make kiddush. Rather, your pares mapa umekadesh, you put a cloth over the food, over the small table that's in front of you, and you make kiddush. Ask the Gemara, Eini, is this so? V'ho amar Rav Tachlifa bar Avdim amar Shmuel. He said in the name of Shmuel otherwise. Keshem shemafsikin lekiddush. On top of Kuf Amud Beis, Kach Mafsikin Lavdollah. The same way that we're Mafsik for Kiddush, we're Mafsik for Avdollah. And therefore, just like on Leil Shabbos, if the table that was brought in front of the Balabayas with the food in front of him, he'd have to be Mafsik by removing the table, saying Birkas HaMazon after eating and saying Birkas HaMazon, and then saying his Kiddush. Only afterwards bring back the table. So too, he'd have to do that with Havdalah. Again, if he started his meal on the Shabbos afternoon and went into nightfall, he'd have to then be mafsik by taking away the table and saying Birkas HaMazon. So here we have a kasha. On the one hand, Shmuel says you merely have to be pares mapa. On the other hand, Shmuel rules over here, seemingly, that the same way that one has to be mafsik by Kiddush, has to be mafsik by Havdalah. My mafsikin, aren't we talking about when we're mafsikin, you have to remove the table? Lav la akira shulchan. And thereby we'll have a kasha? The Gemara says no. Loy. Lemapa. We're talking about you have to be mafsik by being pares mapa, and therefore it's consistent with Shmuel's ruling. Rabba bar Rav Huna ikloy lebei reish galuso. Rabba bar Rav Huna, he visited the house of the reish galuso. Aisu taka kamei. After he came back Friday night from his tfilos, they brought him a table. And what did he do? Paras mapa v'kidesh. He put a cloth over the food and then he made kiddush. The Gemara says, Tani nami hochi. We also have a brisa that supports this. Shein mevin es hashulchan elim kein kidesh. It states over here, we only lechatchila bring the small table with the food on it in front of the balabayis, in front of the one who's eating. That we should do only lechatchila after we made kiddush. However, vimhevi, if they did bring the table already before then he made kiddush, and now it's nightfall, pores mapu mekadesh, he must cover the food and make kiddush. And this seems to then be the Tana that Shmuel is following, because Shmuel said the halach is not like Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yehuda, and Shmuel is an Amora. So which is the Tana that he's following? L'chora, it fits with this Tana. The Gemara now brings the following two brisos. Tani chado. One brisa states shavin she'ein matchilin. One brisa says that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda are equal in regards to you shall not begin the su'uda. Another brisa says that they both, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda, agree that you should, yes, can be matchilin lechatchila. The Gemara asks, by analyzing the brisos, Bishlama hadetanya shavin she'ein matchilin mishkachas lebe'erev haPesach. That's very well according to the brisa that states that they both agree, both Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda, that they agree that you cannot start the meal. That's talking about on Erev Pesach, because they both, even Rabbi Yossi agrees with Rabbi Yehuda, that you cannot begin already when it comes to Zman of Samuch Lemincha. Elo hadetanya, but that which the brisa states, Shavin shematchilin emas. When it says in the brisa that they both, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda, agree that you could be matchilin, you could begin the Su'uda, when is that talking about? Where do you find that you can do that according to Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda argues on Erev Shabbos, although Rabbi Yossi says that you couldn't begin, but Rabbi Yehuda says, no, come Samuch Lemincha, you cannot. You cannot go ahead and eat seishaining food. Gemara says, Lo kasho, kan koidem teisha, kan la'achar teisha. We're talking about before teisha sha'os. Even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that since you begin, you can begin lechatchila, that's already okay. Only when the time of Teshach comes, you have to stop. Whereas Rabbi Yossi, we said anyway, says you can go ahead and begin. And he says, Teshach, you can go ahead and continue your Su'uda. That's the sheet of Rabbi Yossi. And therefore we have the two brises that are miyushav.